Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that affects pretty much everyone, but almost nobody talks about: pharmacoeconomics. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but this is the hidden science that decides the value of every single pill, every procedure you get. It's the reason why some brand new drugs get approved by your insurance and others don't. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start with a situation that's probably all too familiar. You go to the doctor, they prescribe some new, promising medication, and then, boom, you get that letter from your insurance company. Denied. It is so frustrating, right? And it feels really personal, like they're making a decision just about you. But here's the thing. The reason behind that no usually isn't about you specifically at all.
What that denial letter really represents is this massive tug-of-war that's happening at the heart of all modern medicine. On one side, you've got the desire to provide the absolute best, most cutting-edge care possible. And on the other side, the very real, hard limit of what we can actually afford, not just as individuals, but as a whole society. It's this constant battle between what's best and what's possible.
So how do you even begin to solve that puzzle? Well, this is exactly where pharmacoeconomics steps onto the field. You can think of it as the referee in that big match between cost and care. And its job isn't to pick the cheapest team to win. No, its job is to make sure we're making the smartest decisions, the ones based on actual evidence. Okay, so here's the more formal definition. At its heart, pharmacoeconomics is all about looking at two things: the cost of a drug or a treatment and the outcomes, the actual results it gets for patients in the real world. Then it puts those two things together to figure out its overall value. The big question it's always asking is, are we getting enough health benefit for the money we're spending?
And this right here is the key. The goal isn't just to save money. I mean, the cheapest option is often to do nothing, right? The real goal is to make sure our resources, which are always limited, are used efficiently. We want to put our money into the treatments and interventions that give us the biggest possible health benefits for the entire population. All right, so this all sounds good in theory, right? Measure value. But how in the world do you actually do that? I mean, we're talking about health, not comparing prices on a new TV. It's complicated. So to make these really tough calls, experts need a very specific set of tools.
And this leads us to maybe the biggest challenge of all. Think about it. How do you measure something as deeply personal as quality of life? I mean, how do you stick a number on that? A new drug might help someone live for an extra 6 months. But what if those 6 months are spent in constant pain from side effects? Is that valuable?
Well, the solution they came up with is this really clever concept called the Quality Adjusted Life Year. You'll hear it called a QALY for short. Now, just think of the QALY as the universal currency for measuring health. Here's how it works. 1 QALY is equal to 1 year of life in perfect health. Simple enough. But if you live for 1 year with a condition that cuts your quality of life in half, well, that counts as half a QALY. It's a way to combine both the length of life and the quality of that life into one single number.
Let's make this real with an example. You've got two patients. Patient A lives for 2 full years, but with a chronic condition that, let's say, reduces their quality of life by 50%. So 2 years at half quality, that's 1 QALY. Now look at patient B. After a successful treatment, they live for a year and a half, so a shorter time, but they're in perfect health. That means they get 1.5 QALYs. So even though patient B lived for less time, from this perspective, their outcome is considered more valuable. It's not just about more time, it's about more good time.
Okay, so once you have this QALY measurement, you can plug it into something called a cost-effective analysis. And honestly, the best way to think about this is like being a really smart shopper, but for healthcare. You're comparing the price tags of different treatments, but you're also looking at what you get for that price, the health outcomes measured in those QALYs. The whole goal is to find which option gives you the most health bang for your buck.
So, let's say there's a brand new, super expensive drug on the market. How do you decide if it's worth it compared to the old, cheaper one? Well, they use a specific calculation for that, called the ICER. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, figure out how much more the new treatment costs. Step 2, calculate how much more health benefit, how many more QLIAS, it provides. Then for the final step, you just divide that extra cost by that extra benefit, and what you're left with is one incredibly important number: the cost to gain 1 single year of healthy life.
Okay, I know this can all feel a little abstract, a little academic, but I promise you, these numbers and calculations have massive, real-world consequences. This isn't just theory. So let's pull back the curtain and see how all this math actually shapes the healthcare you and I receive.
So who's actually using all this data?
Well, pretty much everyone with a stake in healthcare. Pharmaceutical companies, they use it to justify the high prices of their new drugs. Hospitals and doctors, they use it to decide which medicines to keep on hand. That's called a formulary. And to bring it all back to the beginning, this is what policymakers and insurance companies are looking at when they make those big, system-wide decisions about what gets covered and what doesn't.
And believe me, the stakes here are about as high as they get. We're talking about the decisions that determine which cutting-edge cancer treatments get covered by insurance, or which vaccines get recommended for the entire country. Even something as common as a new heart medication, its fate can be decided by these analyses. It is happening all the time, just below the surface.
Now, this field isn't just sitting still. Not at all. It's changing fast, especially as we get more and more data and better technology. So let's look to the horizon for a minute. Where's this all going? And what's the one huge question that looms over everything? One of the biggest shifts is something called real-world evidence. For a long time, we only had data from clinical trials. These super controlled, perfect environments. But now, we can tap into enormous amounts of data from electronic health records and insurance claims. This lets us see how treatments perform out in the real, messy world with all kinds of different people. It's a game changer because it means we're making decisions based on how a drug works for people like you, not just a handful of people in a lab. Another massive trend is the move toward value-based care. Okay, the old way of doing things was called fee-for-service. Basically, doctors and hospitals got paid more for doing more stuff. More tests, more procedures. The new idea is to pay them for getting better results. So instead of paying for volume, we pay for value. And pharmacoeconomics, that's the engine that's helping everyone define what a good result even is.
And this last one, this is where it gets really exciting. It's the idea of personalized pharmacoeconomics. Think about it. Right now, most of these decisions are based on what's cost-effective for the average person. But what if we could tailor these value assessments to you specifically, based on your genetics, your lifestyle, your unique situation? We're talking about a future where that blanket denial from the insurance company could be replaced with a hyper-personalized, data-driven approval. That's the dream.
Which brings us all the way back to the single, massive question that sits at the very heart of everything we've talked about today. What is 1 year of healthy life worth? Seriously, what's the price tag? Is it $50,000, $100,000, $500,000? There is no easy answer. And really, it's not just an economic question, is it? It's an ethical one. It's a question about what we as a society truly value. And it's the one question we're all going to have to keep asking as medicine keeps pushing the boundaries of what's possible.